Hi all, my name is Dan Wisnowski. I am Media Relations Manager here at AAMI. I'm in the AAMI studio today, joined by Pat Baird, Senior Regulatory Specialist at Philips. We're here to discuss the Machine Learning Cyber Threat Taxonomy Consensus Report Workshop held at AAMI's offices today. Pat, you've done a great deal of work with AAMI on issues like this, and you took some of the lead on today's work. Why don't you tell me and our viewers what this was all about?
Sure. Well, as the viewers know, cybersecurity is obviously a very, very hot topic lately. And artificial intelligence, particularly in the past year and a half, has really exploded, and lots of media press about it. And so my concern that I had was there's new kinds of threats and new kinds of vulnerabilities when it comes to artificial intelligence systems that are a little different than what we're used to in healthcare. And so I thought that putting together a consensus report to educate people on some of those new threats would be very valuable for us and our patients.
Understood, thanks. So let's zoom out a little bit in light of your response there. What are some of the AI or machine learning enabled cyber threats that actually necessitated, right, a consensus report, right? What are some of these new problems?
Right. One of the sort of interesting challenges that we have with machine learning is it really relies on a lot of data. And tons of data, and that data is touched by multiple people from multiple different organizations before it finally goes into the products for either training or testing. So that's all kinds of surfaces where people could intercept the data, do bad things with it, or specifically that data can also be very attractive. It's some very private data, and here's a giant database of patients' data. That's valuable to some people. There's also some malicious actors, and this is what really got me interested in this topic, where they go in and can tweak the data a little bit and give you a completely different result than you did before. And so there was a story. I was actually seeing someone else present this at a conference a couple of years ago. And I thought it was very interesting. They had a photo where the machine was programmed to recognize the different photos, and it said, yes, I believe that this is a cat. They were correct. They changed 13 pixels on the photo. And now with an even higher confidence level, the software said, that's a picture of a toaster.
But it was still a cat.
But it was still a cat. And the cat wasn't in the toaster. But just a very small, tiny thing, very undetectable, poisoned the data going into it. And so that was sort of the tipping point for me of saying, oh, we need something to address this.
Understood. That's fascinating, actually. Right. So you brought in all these different experts, right? Folks from vastly different areas of industry and regulators and so on, right? What was the concrete goal of the workshop today?
I wanted to put together a consensus report about this, just educating people on what are some of those new vulnerabilities and new threats. We know lots of vulnerabilities and threats and possible controls already for more traditional applications, but boy, that thing with the cat and the toaster, okay, that's different. I wouldn't have thought about that as a software engineer. So let's bring together some experts and start hashing through, what do we need as an industry to help us manage this.
Gotcha. And this particular workshop focused primarily on taxonomy, right? So I did want to ask, is the terminology that you and other experts, worked on today, right? Does that comport with existing, terms used in regulations and other standards, or are you breaking new ground?
Right. As much as possible, I want to take and reuse what we already know and what we already call things in medical device security. There's been some draft papers published by a couple different governments on, potential taxonomy of these machine learning kind of threats. There is some international standards going on, but not for medical devices. They're horizontal and they're supposed to be across all industries. But the problem with that is no one in our industry knows about them, and they can also be very, very slow. And this is something in medical device field we need to move quickly on. We need something like a consensus report to get that out there. I can't wait another 2 years for the international standards to be published.
Right. So driven by this, notable sense of urgency, right? You brought together what experts you had. Tell me a little bit about who was at the table today, right? Which fields were represented, who was there?
It was a combination between some of our cybersecurity experts from the Cybersecurity Committee and our artificial intelligence experts from the AI Committee. And we also had a couple people that had experience in both. And so that was very nice. They could, it's two different silos that normally don't talk to each other. This is crossing the bridge between the two.
Gotcha. Very helpful. Thanks. So stepping back for a second, wide lens, what does success look like for this future consensus report? Is the next step a full standard, like it was for the consensus report on risk management for ML-enabled medical devices?
We're very much, my plan is to definitely take and follow that pattern of standards a little more thorough, a little more vetted, but we need something quickly for this, really worried about the data poisoning. And so therefore, let's crank out a consensus report quickly that's useful for people, obviously. Plan would be to take and turn that into a TAR and eventually take it internationally for it. But also just with some of the discussions along the way that we had today, we identified a couple other things that are sort of out of scope of this catalog of vulnerabilities, but things that we think will be needed. So not going to commit right now saying, ooh, hey, we have another project. I'll just need to do the paperwork. But definitely people are saying there's a big need for this and a step beyond what we're doing now.
Gotcha. So you had your meeting and your workshop today. What are next steps after everyone gets on their planes and goes home?
It got some volunteers for the different sections. We took a look at some previously published papers on it, see what people liked, see what people didn't like. I have the action item to update the introduction scope, what this project isn't. Which can be just as important as what the project is. Other folks signed up to do the literature search or add to their own little personal tables that they had of here's some threats, here are places where it applies, and here's possible controls that you have. So really jumping in and starting to draft things immediately.
Awesome. Well, here at AAMI, we're certainly looking forward to seeing that finished product. Pat, thank you so much for your time. Always love talking with you here at the studio.
All right. Thank you.